All right, let's get right into it. We're going to tackle a question that honestly so many of us have struggled with. Why do we keep finding ourselves in the same painful relationships? It's like a cycle. We're going to explore the really deep, often hidden reasons for these patterns and, more importantly, talk about how to start healing. So, let me just ask you this straight up. Have you ever felt, well, stuck? Like you're living out the exact same relationship story, just with a different person's face. It's the same fight, the same heartache, the same ending. You try so hard to change, you promise yourself this time will be different, but somehow, you always end up right back where you started. Oh, it is the most frustrating feeling, isn't it? You swear this is the last time. The absolute last time you'll accept the criticism or the emotional distance. But then they soften up, they say they're sorry, and you forgive them, and you fall right back into that familiar, completely draining dynamic. It can feel like some invisible force is just pulling you back in. To really get what's going on here, I want to share a story with you. It's a real-life account, and it's kind of chilling. It's about a woman who was getting ready for a divorce, and she stumbled upon something in some old phone recordings that completely flipped her understanding of her entire life. So she was listening to a recording of a fight with her husband. Then she found two other recordings with two different men from totally different points in her past. And as she listened, it hit her like a ton of bricks. In all three conversations, she was saying the exact same things, pleading in the same way, arguing the same points, asking for love with the same words. And here's where it gets really weird. These three men, they'd never met. They were from different decades of her life, but their responses to her, they were almost identical, word for word in some places. What she thought were three unique, painful relationships was actually the same painful script being performed over and over again. And just listen to her questions. You can hear the vulnerability, right? With every single one of them, she's asking these pleading, self-blaming things like, what did I do wrong? Or why do you want to hurt me? It was a role she was playing without even realizing it. And now, look at the answers she got back. Every single one flips the blame right back on her. You brought this on yourself. It is a chilling, perfect echo, proving that she was stuck in this loop, and it almost didn't matter who the other person was. You know, there's actually a name for this. It's called compulsive repetition. And this is so important. This isn't just a string of bad luck or having a type. It's a known psychological dynamic where our unconscious mind drives us to repeat the same painful situations again and again. So the big takeaway here is this is a pattern, not a coincidence. Okay, so if it's a pattern, where in the world does it come from? Well, more often than not, this cycle is a really deep echo from our past. It's a reflection of a wounded inner child who is just desperately trying to finally get their needs met. And I really need to be clear about this. We're not always talking about some huge capital T trauma. A lot of the time, these wounds get created by long-term, subtle emotional neglect. You know, the kind of childhood experiences that leave a quiet mark on our inner child, making them super easy to re-trigger in our adult relationships. You can draw a straight line from the past to the present. Think about it. A kid who gets chewed out for getting a 98 on a test, they can easily grow into an adult who feels like they're just never good enough, no matter what. Or if you watched your mom sacrifice all her happiness in a bad marriage, you might learn that you're not worthy of joy, leaving you to always beg for love from this kind of submissive place. To make this even clearer, let me tell you about a young woman named Shao Ua. Her story is a perfect example of how one single unmet need from childhood can drive all of our adult relationships right into a ditch. All Shao Yu really wanted was a partner who would protect her and care for her. Simple, right? But deep down, she believed that was too much to ask for. So the second any guy showed her even the tiniest crumb of kindness, she would dive headfirst into a relationship. And of course, she'd get hurt because she never took the time to actually get to know them. And this right here, this was the single belief that ran her entire love life. This one desperate thought. As long as he doesn't leave me, it's okay. Everything will be fine. That one idea overrode every single red flag, every warning sign, every gut feeling. So where did a belief like that come from? Well, she grew up as what's called a left-behind child. Her parents worked really far away. She got bullied at school and just wished and wished her dad was there to protect her. Her inner child was essentially frozen at that age, helpless and just wanting someone, anyone, to please stay. And that became her lifelong pattern.
Okay, so knowing all this, how do we actually break the cycle? This is where we get into the tools for healing. And the key really is learning how to reparent that wounded inner child that's still inside all of us.
So, this whole process of reparenting, which often happens in therapy, it really breaks down into 3 key stages. First, you have the mirror. That's all about finally seeing yourself clearly. Then comes the hold, which is about accepting your feelings without all the judgment. And finally, the growth, which is the ultimate goal, becoming your own supportive parent. Let's talk about that first step, the mirror. Mirroring is when a therapist kind of holds up a mirror so you can see the patterns that you're completely blind to. Like maybe realize you're constantly trying to please them, always saying what you think they want to hear. And when someone gently points that out, you finally see it. You see how much of yourself you're pushing down just to get a little approval. And that moment of seeing, that's the beginning of everything. But, just seeing the pattern isn't always enough to change it. That brings us to holding. Maybe you know your habits are unhealthy, but you just can't stop. And that's usually because the voice inside your head is so critical, maybe just like your parents were. Holding is about creating a safe space where your feelings are met with empathy, not criticism. It's giving your inner child the one thing it never got. And all of this work leads to the ultimate goal, which is so empowering, becoming your own parent. This is where you really start to transform your inner world for good. What happens over time is really amazing. You start to internalize that warm, stable, accepting voice from therapy. And little by little, it starts to replace that old, critical voice in your head. You actually learn how to soothe yourself, how to comfort your own inner child when they're scared or sad. And this is the beautiful outcome of it all. You realize you don't have to get rid of that vulnerable, simple, childlike part of you. No, instead, you bring it all together. You can be both that pure, simple child and the wise, supportive parent who takes care of them. You're not at war with yourself anymore. The brilliant psychologist Carl Jung really said it best. The inner child isn't some problem we need to fix. It is the guide. It holds the map to our wounds, and if we can just learn to listen to it, we find our way to healing. So I'll just leave you with this one thought to carry with you. If you could get really quiet for a moment and just listen, what is your inner child waiting to tell you? The answer to that question might just be the first chapter of a whole new story for you.